Kevyn Adams is back. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? It's Cal here from Buffalo Sports Center. Today we were hit with the news that we all saw coming. It was rumored Kevyn Adams is returning as GM for the Buffalo Sabres. Now both him and head coach Lindy Ruff have 1 year left on both of their respective contracts, meaning that if the Sabres have another year of failure, it will most likely be another clean house going into the season after that. Now, I'm not going to speculate on whether the Sabres make the playoffs or not. We still have a long season or offseason ahead of us, and I know that Kevyn Adams is going to do a little bit more than years prior because he knows his job is truly on the line. Let's go over some key points and then we'll talk about them. So Frank Cervelli had, this conversation, and he's been leaking news all day. So let's just go bullet by bullet and we'll discuss it after. So first things first, the Sabres have internally discussed the option of a new multi-layered hierarchy in the front office. This is getting pretty complex for the Buffalo Sabres. Keep in mind, this is an organization that hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years. We're talking about a hierarchy in the front office. Again, we're making things very complex, but I guess if that's what we got to do, we got to do. Okay, so this could mean that either Adams is reporting to a higher executive, meaning Adams has less power and somebody above him to be named later potentially has the final say. We'll see. Or Adams moves up to president and they bring in a new GM. So again, that is a possibility. It seems that Kevyn Adams is staying as the GM, but potentially further down in the offseason, he will still potentially get bumped up to president and they will bring in a GM. So either way, Kevyn Adams is going to have a lot of say in the Sabres front office next year with 1 year left on his contract. As of right now, they could always extend him if they change his role. Now, the second bullet point, the organization has recently had conversations with experienced NHL executives about potentially joining the front office. Again, earlier today, Eric Stahl was hired as an assistant to the GM, meaning, just kind of a new perspective. I see people kind of hating on this, and I don't see a point to hate on it. Again, I don't think it's going to serve too much of a purpose, but there's never enough, smart people in a room, right? Bring in Eric Stahl, a guy who has a ton of experience, a ton of NHL experience, could help with recruiting some players. And again, he's friends with Kevyn Adams, so I see a lot of people saying no more former Hurricanes. I get it. Again, I'm a little bit young, so I don't have the same hatred towards the Hurricanes that a lot of you guys do, so I won't, I won't rain on your parade on that one. So the next bullet point, assistant coach Seth Appert has taken an increased role with a voice in hockey operations. Now, the Beyond Blue and Gold with the Josh Norris trade, we saw Seth Appert in the room really having a voice in that trade. Now it makes sense because I guess Seth Appert's going to be potentially moving from assistant coach to a voice in the front office. Not a very powerful voice, but a voice and a respected voice because the Sabres organization loves Seth Appert. Again, had success with the Amherst, came in with the Sabres. Wasn't really a great head coach, but I think they want to, or assistant coach, but I think they want to keep him around. And that would be an easy thing to just kind of move him in a scouting department role or, one of those roles where they kind of sit in, they hear out the important meetings and maybe just give their opinion. They don't have any final say. Again, I don't mind Seth Appert. I wasn't a fan of hiring him as a head coach, that's for sure, and I'm glad they didn't. But bringing him along as an assistant coach was kind of just as bad. And they really kept in-house options. So hopefully that entire assistant coaching staff is shaken up. Still TBD on that. The last bullet point I have here is associate GM Jason Karmanos, who has been running the Amherst. Again, an Amherst team that had a very successful year. How could you not when the Sabres keep drafting in the top 10 over the last 10 years? But he has an uncertain future with the organization. There's a chance that Karmanos is on his way out, whether that be to take a higher role somewhere else or just the Sabres, shifting gears. Now, I see a lot of people, really torqued off about this one. It's the same people that would be torqued off if they fired Kevyn Adams and brought Karmanos in as GM, right? I don't think anyone was going to be super thrilled if that's the direction they went. So, again, I see people saying, well, he's the only guy running a functional organization in the Amherst. Again, look at the roster. I could go in there and run the Amherst. It's a team that has been gifted prospect after prospect after prospect. If the Amherst don't make it far in the playoffs this year or any year in the last 5 years, it's a disappointment because this team continues to feed them talented prospect after talented prospect. I mean, Yuri Kulik is down there, a guy who has had substantial success in the NHL. There's no reason a team with Devin Levi and net and Yuri Kulik leading the forwards that team should not go far in the playoffs. They got to play Laval, though, so we'll see what happens in the next round. But let's dissect this a little bit more here, because I believe Kevyn Adams has made a lot of good decisions in the past. But the issue is his bad decisions significantly outweigh his good decisions. And I've been screaming for the last 2 years, get this guy out of here. We need a new face. But then I just keep cycling back to the cold hard truth that every single GM and coach they bring in here fails because of ownership, right? It starts at the top. The ownership's been the only thing consistent throughout this drought, and nothing's changed. They keep bringing in these guys, and they go 50-50 on them. And, Kevyn Adams continues to say, oh, Terry Pegula, he's in every meeting. He is part of every single meeting, and he's a voice that we listen to. Maybe he has too much say, maybe not. I don't know. The one thing that we know is Terry Pegula still does care about this team. Per sources, per whatever, I'm not going to reveal anything, but let's just say this. Terry Pegula does still care about this hockey team and is kind of at a loss for words, kind of doesn't know what to do. Again, this team, they have spent money in the past. Recently, they haven't, and I've been screaming to you guys. I've been screaming to everyone. What is the point of owning a team if you're not going to spend to the salary cap ceiling every year? I get it, but at the same time, this team just seems like they are just unlucky every year. They go on these losing streaks that they just can't work themselves out of. I think they've fixed the toxicity problem in the locker room. There's just more problems, and this is the offseason where they got to do it. So, if you would have told me this, list of bulleted points in the middle of the season during that losing streak, I probably would have deleted this channel. But right now, I'm going to tell you guys I'm okay with this. One more year. It is what it is. There is the most pressure ever on this front office and head coaching staff. You have to build a playoff team this offseason, and maybe this is what they needed. One more chance. We're going to go for it. We're going to do everything in our power to build a playoff team. I know I'm speaking with hope. It's not going to happen, right? They're going to go out and get Sam Lafferty 2.0 and say, oh, here we go. It's round 2. And then at the trade deadline, when they're 5 points out of the playoffs and could use a push, they're going to sit on their hands and, I don't know, maybe trade Alex Tuck for a second-round pick or something. I don't know, right? There's a lot of question marks. I don't have faith, but I think this was probably the best move, right? You don't want to bring in a new thing and go 50-50 on it and still have Lindy Ruff here, and all of a sudden you're trapped in that. Give this group one more year. Go all out. Spend it to that ceiling. If Terry Pegula doesn't spend to that ceiling this offseason, we riot. We absolutely riot. There's no reason not to. This is the last chance with his prized pupil, Kevyn Adams, and his best buddy, Lindy Ruff, bringing him back. This is the year. Give them all the resources they need. I don't care if you have to overpay $4 million for a guy. Again, give Mitch Marner the blank check. I don't care what you have to do. Trade away everything for Elias Pettersson. I don't care. You have to build a playoff team. You might have to blow up the core a little bit in the middle of the season if it doesn't work out. This is the year where you absolutely have to make the playoffs. And again, we have a long offseason ahead of us. I'm not going to make any judgments whether this next year Sabres team is a flop or, a success. Eventually, you got to luck into the playoffs, right? And you have to give your team every resource to be able to do it. This is a franchise that needs a playoff stint. I don't care if you get swept in the first round. If you don't make the playoffs next year, there are going to be some serious problems. And I know we've joked around about relocation and, maybe this is serious. If this team goes on a 15-year playoff drought, teams don't last. If you're not gonna put the effort in and you're gonna be the laughingstock of the league, you've already lost your fan base from an in-arena perspective. Now, I gotta say, the Bowen Byram news broke, and I had over 20 people message right away. What's going on? What's happening? That restored my faith in the Sabres, fans. I was pleasantly surprised how many people were really upset by Sabres news. And, I know the Sabres videos on this channel usually do pretty well, and I really appreciate you guys watching this because we all want the Sabres to get back to that mid-2000s level. We all want consistent sellouts at the KBC. And it's a hockey town, right? It's a football town, but it's a hockey town too. And if the Sabres could just get back to the playoffs 1 year, again, I'm going to keep screaming this point over and over again. Look at what the Bills did. They reset, right? They gave McDermott and Bean a chance. They put the money in. They got lucky with Josh Allen. Let's not, go on a crazy whirl or whatever. But even before that, they made the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor. It might not have been the prettiest team. They may have got smoked in the playoffs by a terrible Jacksonville Jaguars team that had zero offense in that game, but they made the playoffs, right? And that completely changed it. All of a sudden, the Buffalo Bills went from the laughingstock of the NFL that were on this massive playoff drought. Look at them today. They still might not have a Super Bowl because of reasons I'm not going to get into this video, but all of a sudden, the Bills are a top 3 NFL team in the league. Over and over again, they're getting primetime games, national media coverage. Again, a lot of that has to do with Josh Allen, but not just Josh Allen. Say they had a quarterback who was mediocre to good, and they continued to make the playoffs. At least that breaks the trend, right? You get guys that want to come here. You get guys who, even defenders on this Bills team, they don't care about Josh Allen, but they're coming here to win a Super Bowl. They know this team can make the playoffs, and they know this team has a good enough offense to put them in a good spot. That's what the Sabres need to do, right? You cannot rely on prospects forever. You have to go out and get veteran players to make the playoffs at least 1 year. If you can make the playoffs 1 year, that will change everything. And that is why I am so livid that the Sabres missed out on the playoffs by 1 point a few seasons ago. That was the trade deadline where they did absolutely nothing. You literally could have changed the franchise direction then. This is your last chance. If you continue to fall bottom 7, bottom 5 in the league next year, serious changes need to be made, and I'm one of the biggest Sabres fans you'll ever meet. I watch every game. I'm into it. I'm freaking out about every little play. I don't know if I can care about this team if they don't make the playoffs next year, and it's not crazy to say that. And I know a lot of people have already given up, and especially again, I'm going to continue to prove this point as well too. I mean, there's so many older fans that I just am heartbroken for, that big Sabres fans, and haven't watched a Sabres game in 5 years because of the incompetence in this organization. Let's get those fans back. Again, we're seeing it with the Bandits. The Bandits, an NLL team where league-wide they average 6,000, 7,000 people. The KBC is sold out for regular season lacrosse games. This is a sports city. Let's get this team back to the playoffs. Thank you guys for watching this video. Leave a comment what you think about this whole situation. Again, I was torn, but at this point, I don't care. Give the money. Do everything you can to make the playoffs. And, again, Kevyn Adams, Lindy Ruff, they're likable guys, right? Again, they have good personalities. It's just hockey-wise, they haven't done it last year. And Kevyn Adams is on a bad streak right now. This is his last chance, and I'm rooting for him because why would I root against a guy who's in charge of my favorite hockey team, right? You got to root for him. It's one of those situations where you can't root against him. What are we going to do? Root against this decision and, try to lose again for the 15th straight season? I want everything to work out with this team, and I don't really know what to do. So, again, I'm just going to put my faith up in the air yet again, whether it be for nothing or not. We'll see what they do. Thank you guys for watching this video. Leave a comment what you guys think about these changes. Thank you guys, and have a good one. Peace out.